Hello, and thank you for joining us for our Mission New Arrival, Planning for Your New Baby. Today we will be presenting Module 1, which will be discussing how to develop a spend plan before the baby's arrival. I am Dawn Allen. I work for the 3rd Recruiting Brigade Family Advocacy Program. But all of this is obviously pertains to those of us outside in USEREC. So Mission New Arrival actually is a class that we do offer in its entirety, where we discuss these 4 that make topics. And we will be presenting those in 4 separate modules throughout the month of April in support of Child Abuse Prevention Month. So today, what we're going to discuss, or what I'm going to talk to you about, is developing a spend plan. Now, those of us that are tied to military, we understand that we know that all soldiers, through the military life cycle, you actually obtain financial training at various points in your career. I love that program, and I just want to encourage everybody to include your partners and spouses in any trainings that are available to them. And I also just want y'all to know that everybody out within USEREC we do have personal financial counselors on contract in your footprint. So to make contact with those folks, you just need to get in touch with your SFA, and those financial counselors can actually help walk you through updating your budget or spend plan, as I prefer to call them, to include those changes that are going to be happening now that you have a child on the way. So moving forward, I just want to begin our conversation today with making sure that everybody is aware of Army Emergency Relief. I bring them up because they do offer not only just to soldiers, but also, our entire Army family. Obviously, there's assistance for emergency situations. So, if something comes up, Army Emergency Relief may be able to assist. And then as well, we'll move going forward, we'll talk a little bit in one of the modules, I believe it's module 2, where we'll talk about some funding opportunities and saving money, starting to get into that college savings mindset. However, Army Emergency Relief does offer scholarships and grants, obviously not to infants, those would be to older dependents, but those things are out there, so just want to make sure. So just the basics. What's a spend plan, right? Some folks call them budgets. Like I said earlier, I do prefer to call them a spend plan. Through the years, I've learned when you say budget, people almost automatically shut down. It's almost as if we're saying you can't spend money. And then we set ourselves up, often when we're speaking of budgets, we try to balance that budget at a 0, which is great, but often we don't consider those wants in there. We're not worrying about our savings and things of that sort. So I will be using the terminology spend plan. If I say budget, it's the same thing. But why a spend plan? What is it? So ultimately, it is a roadmap. It helps you to manage your money. It allows you to plan over a period of time. For some folks, they write their budget for 2-week segments. Some people write an annual budget and break it out monthly or weekly. A lot of it just depends how your bills fall, how your pay falls, and how your mind works, what works well for how your brain processes information and spending. Ideally, you really just want to have a really good understanding of where you are financially. Being realistic and honest will allow you to see if you have a surplus over time or a deficit. But it'll allow you to focus on your financial goals. It will also give you that you know what's going on, so you won't have just those anxieties of, I'm not making enough money, I don't have enough money, where's all my money going? You'll know those answers. You'll see where your money's going. You'll be more in control of your money so you can make it work for you. For my family specifically, we do utilize an annual budget. Because we have things that we pay annually that are large expenses, so that just helps me make sure that I'm staying on task for when that annual fee comes due. So we do work off of a bi-weekly budget, but it is a part of an annual budget, which sounds kind of crazy unless you do such a thing, and then you kind of understand what I mean. There's spreadsheets out there so that you can work these things the best way that you can. There's apps. There's lots of resources out there to help you develop these spend plans and or budgets, depending on what the title that they're using is. Again, from Dawn's perspective, spend plan is just a more positive connotation for us. For those of us who cringe when we hear the word budget, because it's associated with too much control and not enough fun, I think is in my brain, that's what budget means. So the spend plan, I would say that the biggest challenge is just planning your spending so you live within your means, so you have those needs that we all have, and then hopefully you can also include your wants within that spending. You're doing this spend plan is going to give you a roadmap that is going to help you meet your goals, and it's going to help you stay focused on meeting those goals. Because it is written and it is a systematic plan, where you're going to be tracking your income and your expenses. Because you're going to know what's going on, it will decrease your anxiety. Okay. So let's move on to actually developing your spend plan. Now, we can make this a simple 4-step process, right? Your first thing is what matters to you. So you're going to need to identify your values. So what is important for you and your family in your life? For me, I need security and stability when I'm old. What age that is, I haven't yet decided. For our budget, I have it planned for, hopefully, a healthy early retirement, and will be great. I specify healthy early retirement because life happens. So there is also a plan for a not so healthy early retirement, as well as continuing to work until I just can't work anymore. I like Dawn's kind of funny that way. I just like to know all of where I'm at, how I'm looking, how it's looking, and I'll tell you that by doing that, I know that even if worst case scenario happens, I'm gonna be okay. We're going to be okay. My family will be safe and secure. So that's why I say I am a huge advocate for a spend plan. Okay, so once you know what's important to you, and I don't just mean that retirement plan. If you have children, you need to be thinking about, obviously, are you going to help them with college? I will talk about that in Module 2. But then, those other things that matter to us as individuals, recreational vehicles, ATVs, having a nice car, the fancy phones, things of that sort. What things are important to you? Okay. Once you guys have sorted through that as a family, keeping in mind that everybody's values need to be considered when we're building this family spend plan because we're making goals as a family. And if we don't set this spend plan up in a realistic manner, you're not going to be setting your family up to succeed. And that is what we want. We want a spend plan that we can succeed at implementing. Okay. So step 2 is identifying your net income. So that net income will come from your LESs or pay stubs if you're when your spouse works on the civilian community. Okay. Then obviously we're going to need to know all those expenses. That's all of your spending. In that spending, that means every penny that goes out, you want to account for it. I do recommend just keeping a diary somehow. You could do it in writing, you could do it in your notes app on your phone, just where you're spending money at. I challenge you to do for 2 weeks, and that's for every family member. It's not going to hurt your children that receive allowances to have their own spend plans. It's a great learning opportunity for them. So, walking them through this process will be a good teachable moment for them, especially as, we all grow up and we need to know this stuff. So the younger we learn good spending habits, good savings habits, the better off we are as we get older. Because as we'll see moving forward, the sooner we start saving, the more money we actually make over the long run. But as you're identifying those expenses, don't forget your streaming services. I'm not plugging anybody, but like the Netflix and Primes and Pandora, all of those services that you do have. I recommend looking at your bank statements. Especially if you don't want to write down everything you spend over the course of 2 weeks. Your bank statements, your credit card statements are going to give you a pretty good idea of where your money's going to, so that you can make sure that you're putting your spending into your spend plan. And then make sure as you're reviewing this, what things can be given up so that you can stay within your spend plan, things of that sort. So, if you have cable TV and you have like 3 streaming services, you might want to consider the expense of that, and can you drop anything so that you can save that money each month. Okay. And then obviously step 4 is actually developing the plan. I'm going to stress, even though it states on the screen, and I know that I said it earlier, you have to be honest and realistic when you're making this plan. This is for you and your family and for your financial success. Okay. So some characteristics of a good plan. Just keep in mind that this plan is not concrete. It is a guide. It is not a work. You're not writing it in stone. Things are going to change. You're assuming that you have bills that you're paying off as part of your plan. There's different techniques for, snowballs and the rollover. You pay off one bill, you start paying those monies towards the next bill. So this spend plan is not written in stone. Okay. It's going to be personalized to you and your family. Your spend plan is not going to look, it might be on the same Excel spreadsheet if, that's how you choose to go. So it might look similar, but it is not going to be anywhere near the same. So that's okay. That's how we want it. We have different values. We have different needs. We have different wants. So that's why you understanding how to write a good and effective spend plan is very important to your financial health. I'm going to say again, a good spend plan will be realistic. It's going to be practical. And again, it's going to be flexible. And then ideally, you're going to want to include not just your necessities in this plan, but those things that bring you pleasure. We all work very hard, and everybody feels like, you deserve to be pampered for all your hard work or rewarded for your hard work. And I agree with that. So we're just going to figure those rewards and pleasures into your spend plan so that you can achieve those things. So as we move forward, some things to keep in mind. When you're looking at how your money goes out, these are some guidelines from financial experts. And when I worked Airmen and Family Readiness and did financial briefings, this is literally coming from those financial briefings. It is briefed by military or to military as well. So something to keep in mind. These are the percentages of your salary that you would ideally not go over when you're budgeting. So what that means is your housing expenses monthly should be no more than 35% of your income. And that will include your rent, utilities, your mortgage, and your renter's insurance. Now for military folks, we know you receive that BAH, so that's going to look, it may look a little differently for you, but keeping in mind that also includes your utilities. But like I said, you know how to write your budget. These are guidelines, and if you need assistance, we have personal financial counselors available to help you work through the process of creating a good spend plan. Okay. All right. You'll note that my first bullet on here is making sure that you save 10 to 15% of your income each month. It is suggested that you pay yourself before you pay any other bills. And you can do that how I do have, my TSP contributions are auto withdrawn out of my check. So for me, that takes up 5% of my percentage. I also have my money goes to a couple of different accounts, which sounds funny. I'm a weird saver, and I think a lot of people are this way. If it doesn't go to your main account, you don't think about it. Okay, so yep, I have my TSP, there's my 5%, and then I actually have 2 other accounts that money goes to for savings as well. And then it just comes out when I get paid on payday. That money's all going where it goes, and what we have in our checking account, we know that that's all of our money within our budget that we're working on. Okay, so just a little recommendation, whatever works for you. That's what works for us. Okay. And then you'll notice that bullet 3, it is recommended that you should plan for no more than 6 to 14% of your income be spent on food, depending on your family size. That is a recommendation. You can check USDA family size food charts. They actually have those out there where you can look them up. If you ever go to, one of the AER, Air Force Aid Society for Food Assistance, they will actually work off those USDA charts to tell you, so that they know how much money that you will need for food, and they'll use there's different levels. There's just your basic food allowance, and then all the way up to, it's a fancy food allowance, but I can't remember what it's actually called. But when when they are figuring out how much monies you will need for food, they will use the lower cost food budget. So I just say that in case you do, so you're not blindsided if that does come up. I do know that in my experience of working with budgets with families, especially when you're talking about very large families, food budgets are significant. So it's something to definitely have a look at. And in that food budget also includes your dining out. So, your Starbucks, your eating out at lunch, that is all part of that 6 to 14% food budget. Something to keep in mind on that, if you are finding that you're running short, but your spend plan is not, your spend plan, you should not be running short, I encourage you to look at that, the eating out. That when I was doing budgets and reviews and financial assistance with folks, what I was finding as the hidden spending, the spending we forget, and or we just you have cash, so you're just using a couple bucks. The big one was the coffees daily. I'll tell you, there are people who will buy 3, 4, 5 Starbucks a day. So that, even if you're buying at one Starbucks a day and it's not accounted for in your spend plan, one Starbucks a day, let's just say it's $3 a day, every, 4 weeks, 5 days, 20 days, $3 a day, there's $60 gone right there, quick. So that's how fast money can just go and us not realize, oh wait, we're spending that and we're not accounting for it on our spend plan. So if you're finding those holes, restaurants, eating out, and coffees were where I found most of the, I'll call them unknown losses. And then amazingly, one other one was actually church tithing. So something else to keep in mind. Okay. Moving on the living expenses, it is advised to not go above 20% of your net income for transportation expenses, and that includes your car payments, car insurance, gas, maintenance. So just something to keep in mind there. And then the same number, 20% for all of your personal loans, credit card payments, student loans, all of those loan payments besides your mortgage and car payment. Okay. Okay. Well, this gift is actually Marge and Homer. And Marge has come to Homer, and she was going through the annual, what was spent last year, and found that Homer had spent $5,000 on donuts the previous year. So that brings us to what happens if your plan is showing a deficit. Okay. For me, first thing to do if there's a deficit, because typically at this stage of my life anyhow, I don't have a whole lot of money going out that I'm not aware of where it's going. So if I don't have enough money to pay my bills, then I need more money, right? So how that looks, how you obtain more money is increasing your income, which sounds really easy, right? Maybe getting a second job, picking up a job, maybe you have things that you could sell to pay off a credit card or something along those lines. Maybe you do a side gig of some sort. I don't know. Everybody has, I know lots of people with side gigs. But the easiest, on some level, the easiest way to handle a deficit is to increase your income. That's assuming that you have the time or the resources to do so. Okay. If not, it's okay too. My first thing is always that cable bill, especially if you have streaming services. When I was doing budgets with people, I would see people that would have, $200 cable bills as well as, a couple of streaming services going. So that gets very expensive. You can save a lot of money by cutting the cable, keeping, your high-speed internet, holding on to your, it just depends what works well for your family. But consider cutting some of those things back, because every little bit, it adds up. And then another way, take your lunch to work, eat out less, get a grip on your food budget. Like I said, that one is surprisingly probably the biggest blood sucker or cash sucker is just the eating out. I think a lot of us just, it's convenient. It's easy, it's convenient, but it's also easy and convenient to forget to include that in your spend plan. So something to keep in mind. Shop around for your home and auto insurance. That includes your renter's insurance. If you have auto insurance, definitely look into having, check out your bundling options. Sometimes that saves money. My big one here, as you're shopping around, is making sure that you're comparing the same insurance parameters with what the cost is. What I mean is whatever your homeowners or renters insurance is covering currently, make sure that when you're calling around or you're looking online, that that's what you're getting a quote for as well, so that you're doing in-kind comparisons. Okay, because we could all knock stuff off of our insurance up to certain legal limits and decrease the bill. You have the insurance that you have in place because that's what you need, or that's, you may want to reconsider what your needs are there as well. um, you know it's literally, again, it's a personal choice. On some level, you have your minimums that your mortgage company is going to require, the state's going to require, but then you also have you know your replacement value on your vehicle, things of that sort. I can give you a great example on that. I had a Dodge minivan that was paid for. The insurance company wanted me to drop full coverage. I asked them, how much am I going to save a month? They said $8 for liability versus full coverage. I, of course, kept the full coverage. Honestly, I had intended to keep it regardless, because bottom line is if somebody totaled my car and they didn't have insurance, I would need a vehicle so I could get to and from work, and that was my biggest concern with that vehicle, just making sure I had a vehicle. If I had full coverage, I knew I had a rental until I had, got it sorted out. $8. And wouldn't you know, it was about 4 months later, somebody totaled my minivan. I was parked at a red light. So it was a great choice for me. All right. Other things you can do if you have a deficit, use coupons. I have friends who are super couponers, and they save bukus of cash. I personally am not disciplined enough for that, or a lot of times I don't use the brands that I have coupons for, and if the brand that I use has a coupon and I actually have the coupon, I will use it. But other than that, I'm not good at coupons. But lots of people are, and there's grocery stores that do double coupons. There's definitely opportunity to save money utilizing coupons. Okay. Renting videos, which sounds like I'm talking about VHS tapes from Blockbuster Video, but bottom line is you're going to save money even if you order pay-per-view at the house. It's going to cost less than going to the movies. So if you do have a deficit, you can still have modern entertainment, the latest and greatest. Just maybe not on the big screen in the theater. You'll just have it at the house. And free snacks, all that jazz. So there's benefits to having movie night at the house. Okay. Other ways to decrease expenses if there's a deficit: monitoring your electrical usage or your propane, gas, however you heat your home. Keeping your lights off when they're not using them. Air conditioning, maybe you keep your house at, 76 degrees. Maybe consider bumping it up to 78 in the summer. That 2 degrees is going to make a big impact on your electric bill. Your heating costs, keeping your house at 70 versus keeping it at 72, it's also going to save on heating costs. So, just maybe throw on some sweaters, use blankets, don't freeze everybody out, but there are ways to save money just by being more cognizant of how we're utilizing our utilities. Okay. And then the cell phone plan. When I was reviewing budgets, cell phone plans, I would say my biggest challenge that I would see, especially with very young airmen, paying the phone bill for the whole family. And when you start looking at, an E3's budget, a cell phone for a family of 4, and you're paying for the phones, that is a really big expense. So it's just something to keep in mind. If you have a cell phone plan and you have unlimited data, but you only use 3 gigs a month, really have a look at that cell phone plan. You more than likely do not need to be paying for unlimited data when you don't hit 3 gigs a month. So if you're not in a contract, I don't even know if they have phone contracts anymore. I haven't had a phone contract in over 15 years. So if you are in a contract, it's just something to consider when that contract is up, considering downgrading as well. The other thing that I would see on these cell phone plans is that but it can't think of what it's called right now, but it's where you're prepaying so you can have a brand new latest and greatest phone every year. That is a great luxury when you don't have a deficit. If you do, that is not a luxury that you need to have. I'm still carrying a Galaxy S7 because it works great. Um, I don't see any reason to trade up my phone, even though I really want that S21, but I'm not going to get it until the phone, when I bought that S7, it was brand new. I'm not, you know, I'm just saying. Cell phones do last for a while. It is something to consider if you're having some financial struggles. Spending $1,000 to $1,200 every year on the latest and greatest cell phone is probably not your best decision at that time that you're in that deficit mode. Okay, that brings us to needs versus wants. Sure, this day and age, we all need a cell phone. We definitely need one. I don't know that I know. Oh wait, my mom still has a landline, but she doesn't even really use it, I don't think. Gosh, that is literally the only person I can think of that I know has a landline right now. And that's just because she's had it for years, literally since we were, kids. It's the same phone number. I think that's the only reason why she keeps it, because she uses her cell phone all the time. But I digressed. Cell phone plans. Needs versus wants. When I was discussing the cell phones, we need a cell phone, but we want the latest and greatest cell phones. So you need to prioritize your needs versus wants if you're finding that spend plan is in a deficit. Okay? Which brings us on to budgeting for baby. Ooh. So when we're discussing needs versus wants for a baby, we know the baby's going to need a car seat. When you get discharged from the hospital, baby's going to need a car seat. Some hospitals do provide a car seat. So you're going to have to check with your area, because we are all nationwide, and I can't tell you if your state offers that or not. So it's definitely worth looking into. Baby needs a safe place to sleep. Okay, they don't need a fancy crib. They are going to need diapers. They're going to need clothing, but they don't need designer clothing. They're going to need those feeding tools. If you're breastfeeding, you're not going to need as many tools, so to speak, as one who isn't breastfeeding. But also keep in mind, if you plan to breastfeed, doesn't necessarily mean you'll be able to breastfeed. So you also want to kind of keep that a little buffer in your budgeting, just in case you do need to start utilizing formula. Okay. Some wants, I've heard through the years, lots of people, I'm having my first baby, I need a new car. I'm here to tell you, if your car is safe, you don't need a new car unless you don't have a back seat. If you have, just a little, I'm trying to think of newer cars that have little back. Okay, I don't know. Maybe you drive a Porsche 911 that, they just have those little bitty seats in the back. I don't know if your baby's car seat's going to fit back there. So you may actually need a new car. But for the most part, sedans, coupes, hatchbacks, even most trucks, unless they're crew cabs, have a back seat, and they can be used. Now, I know it's going to be a pain in the rear getting that baby seat in the back seat if you've got a two-door vehicle, but if you cannot afford to purchase a new car right now, you're not, it's just not time yet. You know what I mean? So we'll come up with a short term, how do we get to that new vehicle? And it could mean, that is something you want. So you just got to develop a plan on how to obtain it. Fortunately, baby's young, so you won't have as much in and out straight away. Keeping in mind as they get older, appointments, I get it. Childcare, things of that sort, I understand. I will say, if you really do feel like you need a new car as part of having a baby, again, our personal financial counselors are out there in the footprint. Just get in touch with them so that they can help you come up with a plan so that it works well for your family. Okay. I want, let's see, the ones I didn't say anything about a changing table. Lots of people want a changing table. Ultimately, you don't need a changing table. It's a nicety. When I was coming up, we didn't have convertible beds. We didn't have convertible car seats. Baby wipes, they didn't exist yet. They still used washcloths on our butts. So there's a lot of things that we have as expenses for infants now that are not necessities. So I want you to understand that, okay? All right, so as you're shopping for your baby, plan ahead. It's just like shopping all the time. You go to the grocery store, you make a list. So you stay within your means, you get what you need. And then, if you're on task, okay? You're going to do the same thing with baby, okay? You're going to want to buy those needs first. And then any monies that you have left over that is within that budgeted spend plan, you can go ahead and purchase your wants, okay? But you gotta be honest with yourself about how much you really have to spend. Remember, a baby doesn't stay a baby forever. An infant, is no longer an infant once they start getting into the 12 to 24 month stage. They'll still be using, depending on how well they grow, they might still be using the infant car seat. They'll more than likely still be in the bed, but it's possible that they're growing out of that car seat and it's time for a new one already. And I guarantee you they're not wearing the same diapers and clothing. So just something to keep in mind, that this, it's not like the things you're buying are not for an adult. That, maybe you spend, I don't know, $1,000 on a bed for an adult, because that bed's going to be used for the next 10 to 20 years, depending on how long it's supposed to last. A baby, you're not I don't know that you're going to want to spend $1,000 on a bed for the baby, because best you're going to get is up to, maybe you have a convertible bed so that it'll go to a toddler bed. So, 4 or 5 years, depending on how long or tall your child is, and that is all just going to vary. So just things to keep in mind as you're spending the money. Use that credit sparingly, use it wisely, and just be straight with yourself. Excuse me. Some additional tips: as soon as you know you have the baby coming, I recommend you start living, you start that baby budget, what you think it's going to be when the baby arrives. You start using that now, because you're going to have a reduced disposable income. If you don't have kids now and you're adding a child, you're not going to have as much disposable spending money. So the sooner that you start getting used to it, the less stressful it's going to be for you. And oh, by the way, if you wait till the baby's here, you're going to be short of sleep. You're going to have possibly a fussy baby on hand, hopefully a very easy baby. Always hoping for that, but it's reality, folks. The sooner that you start, the sooner you can get used to it, and the less stressful it is in the long run, okay? Recommend that you obviously get your registry, but don't just register for things for a newborn baby. Register for things that are more long-term. So think about those, the 2-year-old onesies, the convertible car seats, the the convertible strollers, things of that sort. That way, hopefully, some family members or friends might be able to chip in and buy you one or buy one straight out. Um, if not, that's okay. You've put it on the registry. And sometimes when folks don't, and it varies by business, you're going to have to ask each individual business. But if the items aren't purchased as a gift, a lot of the companies do give a discount from when you do make the purchase. So it's still advantageous for you to have that registry. Excuse me. I also recommend that you meal prep before your baby comes. Keeping in mind, like I said, your baby arrives, you're going to be tired. You don't know how your baby's temperament is going to be. So if you spend the time between now and birth, when you make chili, just make a double batch, freeze part of it, just so that you guys have homemade meals to throw in the oven or microwave, so that you guys have some proper food and nutrition to eat without having to fight time or money or being tired. It'll work out better for you as you're acclimating to your new family. Okay. And then I want you to make sure that you have that emergency fund in place. If you do not currently have an emergency fund, it's okay. We all start somewhere, but you have to start saving. And if you are getting used to that reduced disposable income, that may be where you can start putting money back in savings. What I mean is, maybe you have a disposable income. You guys have $500-600 a month spending money because you don't currently have children. Between now and the baby's birth, you can put that money in savings so that you then have an emergency fund in place. And that way, when the baby's born, that $500-600 that you had budgeted to utilize towards what the baby's going to need is then being used. But then you're adjusting, you're creating some emergency funding, and you'll be better ready once baby arrives. Diapers, it's going to be part of your budget. Okay. There are very huge cost differences between cloth and disposable. As I've written here, they say that on average, babies go through about 2,300 diapers in their first year. That's a lot of diapers. I'll say if you're going to use childcare, the childcare companies, businesses, CDCs are going to require the use of disposable diapers. If your baby has sensitivity or cannot utilize disposables, you can do waiver requests for cloth diapers based on that medical need. But I say all that to say, if you are choosing to go with cloth diapers because they're cheaper or more affordable, you're also going to still have to buy disposable diapers if you use community childcare in any way. So make sure you figure that into your budget. Using both is going to still save money, so it's not necessarily a bad idea. Don't forget, when you're figuring in the cost of the cloth diapers, that you're going to have to wash them and clean them, and detergent and disinfectant, all of those sorts of things, that all figures into that budget as well. So as you can see, after everything's kind of considered all together, they run very similar cost-wise. So, I don't have babies. I worked in childcare. I appreciate disposable diapers. My sister utilized cloth diapers with her first two. Landfill things. Third one, disposables. So it's a personal family choice. So just those are things to consider while you're figuring out those diaper dollars. My last suggestion, don't go out and buy one brand and one size. When you do your registry, make sure you do multiple sizes. I've met babies that were brand new infants that fit into not newborn diapers. I think, what is it, level 2? I always forget the diaper sizes, but just because your baby's newborn doesn't mean they're going to fit into a newborn diaper. So definitely recommend you having a couple of different sizes of diapers available. Also, a few different brands. Different babies react differently to different brands. I guess that's the best way to say that. But that way you can test, and if it doesn't work, any unopened diapers, maybe you had the newborn and the level 1 diapers, and your baby only fit into the level 1s. You didn't open the newborns. Most stores will take that return as well. So that's also something to keep in mind. Okay. The cost of childcare, you're going to have to also figure into your budget. That is going to vary state to state. Everybody that is assigned to recruiting does have the service of Child Care Aware to utilize, so make sure you use them. They'll help you get connected with child care providers, as well as having some programs available for fee assistance when you're comparing on and off installation. There's formulas there, but Child Care Aware can help you with all of that planning phase and getting those financial assistance and getting connected to child care providers. Okay. Some additional helping agencies. I bring these up because it may apply to some of you. I know in USAREC we tend to have a little bit higher ranking folks, so my first bullet here may or may not count for us in USAREC, but just in case. I know I've worked with, I've assisted people who were active duty and qualified for WIC and food stamps. So I say, if you're having a new baby, definitely apply for WIC or food stamps. If your family meets the financial requirements and qualifies, you need to utilize the resource. There's no shame in it. I pay my taxes so your family can receive any assistance that's needed. Don't feel some way about that. I have usually typically only seen that with folks who were of a lower rank, but it's also based on family size. So maybe you're not an E3. When I say lower rank, that's kind of what I'm thinking of. We're kind of starting out. E1, E2, E3, we're all starters here. But, if you're E4, E5, E6, and you have a lot of children, and you have a new child on the way, please visit your social services, because as you add additional family members, that adds additional expense, and your family may actually meet financial guidelines to receive assistance for food assistance. And if your family qualifies, I want your family to please utilize that. That's why we all work, to pay taxes so that people can eat at the very least. Okay. Some other helping agencies, that's it. Partnership for Children is what it is called in North Carolina. I know these titles vary by state and county. However, whatever your local child, oh my Lord, advocates are, you should be able to find that out through social services, your SFAs. Give me, shoot me an email, throw me, I had my email up at the beginning, and if you can't find it, I will ask around. I know some people around, and I'm sure that we can find what it is in your state, so no worries there. And then obviously Child Care Aware. I know I said it before, but I'm going to say it again because they're a helping agency. Okay. Some other things to just keep in mind. The cost of working versus staying at home. You might want to run those numbers depending on what our incomes are. Especially if you can work from home, you might be able to work both of those things out. But these are things to keep in mind as you're working on this budget. Okay.